You just love them and engage their spirit in a loving, accepting way, because they are your brothers and sisters. Yeah. Even though they may not know it yet, they are. And if you see them as that way, you treat them that way. And if you treat them that way, you treat them as if they belong already. Whereas most church settings are, you need to believe before you belong. Well, actually, we need to help them see that they belong, and so that then that will enable them to realize that the other way around, but we've changed it in such a way that the gospel is unrecognizable. I mean, if you go back to Wesley, Whitefield preaching in the fields, they didn't pray this prayer, come to the altar. They just preached the presence of God and the revelation that they had of God's love, and God's presence fell on people in the fields, and they started crying, and they were crying out because God had met them. It wasn't until the 19th century, with the sort of invention of the train, that then evangelists could move from city to city, and they had appointments booked that, I've got to leave on the train tonight. We need to wrap this up. So we need some sort of form of, how do we get a decision and wrap this up? Well, before they didn't do that. They had what they call tarrying meetings. They just met and met until people met with God. And there was a very emotional experience where they met with God in those meetings. Whereas then Finney comes along with this sort of gospel train, and it was like, well, we need an altar call. We need a prayer of salvation. If someone prays this, they're saved. Well, no, they're already saved. They just hadn't realized it. So then it was almost like they're not. So that became a gospel of exclusion. You're not included until you pray this prayer. Whereas Paul's gospel was a gospel of inclusion. You're already included in Christ. You're already reconciled. And actually, he's already in you. Therefore, you can experience him now. Very, very different gospel. In fact, it isn't a gospel that sort of message of works-based performance is not a gospel at all. It's not good news. And I think that's the intellectual side of what it's become. It's all focused on giving you information and getting you money, basically. in the faith movement, that's basically the sort of message.